A black single dad answers calmly and shocks the powerful. The warehouse smelled like dust and forgotten things. Marcus Williams stood on a steel ladder, rewiring the surveillance system on the second floor of Pinnacle Ventures, a private equity firm that controlled $300 million in assets. Below him, the main floor hummed with activity, led $300 million in assets. Below him, the main floor hummed with activity. Traders, analysts, assistants running like ants in a nest they'd never truly own. Marcus wasn't part of that world. At 41, he was the maintenance supervisor, the man who fixed what broke. His son, David, was 9 years old, lived with his mother's parents in Detroit, and called every Wednesday night asking if Dad was coming home soon. Marcus always said yes, even though soon meant maybe twice a year. He'd taken the job 6 months ago because it paid well and asked nothing of him but competence. No eye contact, no questions, just fix it and disappear. But today, silence would become impossible. The CEO, Dominique Laurent, was in the executive conference room directly below him. Marcus could hear her voice through the metal floor, sharp, commanding, the kind of voice that made people smaller just by listening to it. She was 43, according to the office gossip, ruthless, according to everyone else. She'd built Pinnacle from nothing, taking risks that would have bankrupted anyone with less nerve. But there was a price to that kind of power. She trusted absolutely no one. Marcus was rewiring the security cameras when his screwdriver slipped. It fell through a gap in the warehouse ceiling, landing directly on the conference room camera feed below. The monitor flickered, switched angles, and suddenly Marcus was looking at Dominique's personal screen. She was reading something, an email. His eyes caught a phrase, "Payment received for the information. The deal closes Friday." Marcus froze. He shouldn't have been looking. The maintenance code of conduct was explicit. Never access, never observe, never remember. But the text was right there, large, impossible to unsee. He quickly repositioned the camera, made the image disappear from his sightline. His heart was hammering. Whatever Dominique was doing, it wasn't his business. He was invisible. He needed to stay invisible. He finished the wiring in silence and climbed down the ladder, moving like a ghost through the building. But his hands wouldn't stop shaking. 3 hours later, Dominique Laurent sat in her office on the 42nd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that bent to her will. Her assistant had just left. Her door was locked. She was reading the email again, the one that confirmed everything she'd been planning for months. A competitor was preparing to launch a product that would destroy Pinnacle's market position. It was a brilliant product, years ahead of what anyone else had developed. Dominique had discovered this through a contact at the competitor's firm, a contact who'd been paid handsomely to share the details. What she was about to do was illegal. Securities fraud, insider trading, corporate espionage, all wrapped into one beautiful, devastating package. But it would save her company. It would save thousands of jobs. It would keep Pinnacle alive when the competitor's move would have killed it. She'd rationalized it 1,000 times. Then there was a knock on her door. "Come in," she said, and the maintenance supervisor entered, the one whose name she'd never bothered to learn. "Ms. Laurent, there's an issue with the executive conference room camera. I need to recalibrate the feed. It may take an hour." Dominique barely looked up. "Fine, make it quick." Marcus nodded and turned to leave, but something made him pause. Something in his chest that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the weight of what he'd seen. He turned back. "Actually, Ms. Laurent, there's something else." Dominique's eyes snapped up, cold as ice. "What?" "When I was working on the camera, I saw your screen. Just for a moment. I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't have looked." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Dominique stood slowly, and every cell in Marcus's body screamed at him to run. She walked toward him, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown to execution. "You looked at my screen," she said quietly. "You saw my personal emails." "Yes, ma'am. By accident. I'm sorry. Dominique's hand went to her desk phone. You're fired. Security will escort you out in 5 minutes. You'll sign an NDA agreeing never to speak about what you saw. If you violate it, my lawyers will destroy you. Do you understand? Marcus's throat tightened. His stomach dropped. 5 minutes. He was losing his job in 5 minutes, and his son was waiting for him to call on Wednesday night. But instead of panicking, instead of begging, instead of doing any of the things a desperate man should do, Marcus took a breath, and he spoke. With respect, Ms. Laurent, if I wanted to use what I just saw, I wouldn't still be standing here asking permission to leave. I'd have already sent it to the SEC, the IRS, and every competitor in your industry. The fact that I came to tell you what I saw means I'm not the person you should be firing. The silence that followed was absolute. Dominique's hand hovered over the phone. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or fear. Are you threatening me? She asked softly. No, ma'am. I'm telling you the truth. I could destroy you, but I'm telling you instead. That means something. Dominique stared at him for a long moment. Then she walked back to her desk and sat down. She didn't pick up the phone. Sit down, Mr. Marcus Williams. Sit down, Marcus Williams. He sat. Tell me what you saw, Dominique said. Marcus hesitated. This was the moment where he could walk away, take the severance package, find another job. But he thought of David, waiting for his Wednesday call. He thought of a man who took his responsibilities seriously, even when the world made it impossible. I saw an email about information being sold, Marcus said. About a deal that closes Friday. I don't know the details, but I know enough to understand that what you're doing is illegal. Dominique's jaw tightened. And what do you plan to do with this information? Nothing, unless you tell me to keep it quiet. Because if you tell me to stay silent, then I become complicit. And I won't do that. Not for a job. Not for anything. Dominique leaned back in her chair. She studied Marcus like she was trying to read something written in a language she didn't understand. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because I've lost everything once already, Marcus said quietly. My wife, my marriage, my son, most days. I lost them because I made choices that seemed right at the time but weren't. I'm not going to lose myself, too. Something in Dominique's expression shifted, a crack in the armor so small Marcus almost missed it. Leave my office, she said. Marcus stood and walked toward the door. Wait, Dominique called out. Don't come in tomorrow. Take the week off. Think about whether you want to keep working here. Marcus turned back. You're not firing me? Not yet, Dominique said. First, I need to figure out whether you're blackmailing me or saving me. That night, Marcus sat in his apartment in Queens, a small one-bedroom he'd rented so he could send most of his salary to David's grandparents. The walls were bare. The furniture was functional. There was nothing personal except for photographs. David at 5, at 7, at 9. David in his soccer uniform. David holding a fish he'd caught. David. Marcus called his son's number, even though it wasn't Wednesday. Dad? David's voice was small, surprised. Are you okay? I'm fine, buddy. I just wanted to hear your voice. Grandma said you'd call on Wednesday. I know. I wanted to call tonight instead. Is that okay? Yeah, that's good. David paused. Dad, are you coming to visit soon? Marcus closed his eyes. I don't know yet, buddy. I might be. Something happened at work and I'm figuring things out. Are you in trouble? No, not like that. I made a choice today, and I'm not sure if it was the right one yet. David was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Grandpa says when you're not sure about something, you should do what makes you feel okay at night. He said that's how you know if it's right. Marcus felt something break inside his chest. His son, 9 years old, dispensing wisdom about integrity to a man who'd spent years feeling like a failure. Your grandpa is a smart man, Marcus said. Are you going to do what makes you feel okay? Yeah, buddy. I think I am. Monday morning, Marcus showed up to work. Dominique was waiting for him in her office. You came back, she said. Yes, ma'am. Why? Because whatever you're planning to do, you need to stop. And if you need someone to help you stop, I can do that. Dominique studied him again. Then she did something Marcus didn't expect. She told him the truth. She told him about the competitor, about the product that would destroy her company, about the desperation that had driven her to consider breaking the law, about the fear that had always driven her, fear that if she wasn't ruthless, if she wasn't willing to do what others wouldn't, she'd lose everything. Marcus listened. He didn't judge. He just listened. So what do you think I should do? Dominique asked finally. I think you should tell your board the truth. Tell them about the threat. Tell them what you were planning. And then let them decide what to do next. They'll remove me. They'll see it as weakness. Maybe, Marcus said. Or maybe they'll see it as honesty. I don't know. But I know what happens if you go through with the original plan. You destroy yourself. And you teach everyone around you that breaking the law is acceptable if you're scared enough. Dominique was quiet. I have a son, she said finally. He's 17. He hasn't spoken to me in 2 years. He says I'm the kind of person he doesn't want to become. Marcus understood then. Dominique Laurent, the ice queen of private equity, was broken in exactly the same way he was broken. She'd sacrificed everything for power and ended up with nothing but the power itself. Then maybe this is the moment to change, Marcus said. Dominique called an emergency board meeting. She told them everything. The email, the plan, the desperation, the fear. The board was shocked, angry, but ultimately they voted to keep her as CEO on one condition. She had to implement a complete ethics overhaul. New compliance officers, regular audits, a commitment to transparency that would reshape how the company operated. It cost Pinnacle $200 million to develop a legitimate response to the competitive threat. It took 18 months of work. But the company survived, and more than that, it thrived in a way it never had before, built on trust instead of fear. Dominique called Marcus into her office 3 months into the process. I want to offer you a position, she said. Director of Operations and Oversight. You'll report directly to me. You'll be in charge of ensuring that every decision we make is ethical, legal, and honest. Marcus blinked. You want me to be the company's conscience? I want you to be what you already are, Dominique said. A man who does the right thing even when it costs him. I need that in my organization. What's the salary? Marcus asked. Dominique told him. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. There's one condition, he said. What's that? I want to be able to leave at 3 p.m. on Wednesdays. That's when my son and I talk. I don't want to miss that anymore. Dominique smiled. Done. And I'd like to meet him sometime. Your son, if that's okay. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. 6 months later, David visited his father in New York for the first time. Marcus picked him up from the airport, and they rode the subway to Pinnacle's offices in Midtown. Dominique was waiting in the lobby, and when she saw David, something softened in her face that had never softened before. You look like your father, she said, shaking David's hand like he was an equal, not a child. Thank you, Ms. Laurent, David said politely. Please, call me Dominique. Later, after the office tour, Dominique pulled Marcus aside. He's remarkable, she said. He reminds me of what I wanted to be before I got lost in all of this. He reminds me of what I should have been, Marcus said. Dominique nodded. I called my son yesterday, after months of no contact. I told him that I'd made mistakes, that I'd been afraid, and that fear had made me cruel. I asked if he'd be willing to talk to me. What did he say? He said he'd think about it. It's not forgiveness, but it's a beginning. Marcus understood. He'd spent years thinking that his mistakes were permanent, that once you'd damaged something, it stayed damaged forever. But standing in that office with a woman who'd risked everything to become better, who'd sacrificed power for integrity, he realized something different. Some things could be rebuilt. Some relationships could be healed. Some people could change. 1 year later, Marcus was in the executive conference room when a junior employee accidentally saw something confidential on a screen. The room held its breath, waiting for the CEO to explode. Dominique looked at the young man's terrified face. Then she smiled. "Don't worry," she said gently. "Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is what we do after." The employee exhaled, relieved. Later, Dominique pulled Marcus aside. "Did you see what I did back there?" she asked. "Yeah," Marcus said. "You gave him what you wish someone had given you." "Exactly," Dominique said. "You changed my life, Marcus. You showed me that strength isn't about power. It's about staying calm when you have every reason not to." "My son taught me that," Marcus said. "I'm just passing it on." That night, Marcus called David. "How was your day, buddy?" "Good. How was yours?" "It was good. Really good. Actually, I'm thinking about buying a house here, in New York, so you can visit more often. Maybe even spend whole summers with me." David's voice went up 3 octaves. "Really?" "Really, if you want that." "Yeah, Dad. Yeah, I want that." Marcus looked out his office window at the city sprawling below him. A year ago, he was invisible. A year ago, he was fixing broken things but couldn't fix himself. A year ago, he thought his mistakes defined him. But he'd learned that calm could be a superpower, that integrity could change boardrooms, that a man who'd lost everything could still find redemption in the simple act of doing the right thing when no one was watching. The email that almost destroyed Dominique Laurent became the catalyst for her transformation. The moment of truth that Marcus Williams nearly ran from became the moment that saved his life. Sometimes the most powerful answer isn't the loudest. Sometimes it's the quietest voice in the room that speaks the truth nobody wanted to hear. And sometimes that voice comes from a black man in work boots who remembered that his son was always watching, even when he wasn't there.